Hi everyone, welcome to the Tech for Good Essay Competition 2022 prize ceremony. Please get yourself ready and settled as we'll be starting in 5 minutes.
Southeast Asia is young, ambitious, and full of promise. We may be a big market of potential consumers, but we are more than that. We are also producers, creators, investors, and traders. What does it take to develop a tech ecosystem for good? It takes us all, young or old, digital native or late adopter. We are citizens in an increasingly digitalized world. Tech for Good starts with a confident digital society, equipped with skills, information, and access to different points of view. In 2022, the Tech for Good Institute developed our website and LinkedIn presence as platforms for balanced information and perspectives. 14,000 unique readers came for opinions, articles, and commentaries addressing key policy issues around emerging tech. Appetite for such content is strong. 2/3 of our work is reposted by our 2,700 followers on LinkedIn. They are our ambassadors. Through them, we widen the reach of the conversation across public, private, and civil spheres. Analysis and explanations, however, are not enough. Vision matters. Through our inaugural essay competition, more than 140 youth shared their hopes for and concerns with the digital ecosystem we are building today, and that they will inherit tomorrow. Our digital ecosystem is the result of many daily decisions undertaken by leaders in companies and governments. These decisions benefit from data and debate. Building on our launch report on the platform economy in Southeast Asia, we asked how digital technologies may achieve broader goals in our communities: digital and financial inclusion, trust, cyber resilience, and sustainability. Such research informs and frames the discourse with evidence. While research is necessary, it's not sufficient. Technical decisions do not take place in a vacuum. Data needs context. Analysis must lead to action. If technology is to serve society, we need an inclusive debate on the trajectory of innovation we want to see. Only then may we enable growth in the digital economy, while collectively shaping its growth for good. This is the purpose of the Tech for Good Institute, to realize a thriving technology ecosystem to drive equitable, sustainable, and inclusive progress for Southeast Asia. With your support, we've been able to lay the foundation of the Institute's work this year. Thank you. We look forward to working with you to advance tech and Southeast Asia's digital economy for good for all.
Welcome everyone to Tech for Good Essay Competition 2022 prize ceremony. Here are a few convention and notes we would like all of you to keep in mind to ensure that the ceremony will occur smoothly. Firstly, you're recommended to name yourself based on this format: category, which is the country you are from, followed by your name so that we're able to identify who you are. Secondly, Tech for Good Institute will record the entire ceremony for publicity purposes. By attendance, you are aware and agree to the ceremony recording. Thirdly, please mute your microphones at all times except when you are speaking. Last but not least, you're highly encouraged to turn on your camera to increase engagement. To start the ceremony, I would like to invite Dr. Ming, Tech for Good Institute's founding executive director, to deliver a speech on the Institute's mission and purpose behind this competition.
Thank you so much, Hui-san, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us today at the prize ceremony for the 2022 Tech for Good Institute Essay Competition. My name is Ming, as Hui-san had mentioned, and I'm the founding executive director of the Tech for Good Institute. The Tech for Good Institute was founded only about a year ago to encourage conversations on how the promise of technology and the digital economy may be leveraged for sustainable, equitable, and inclusive growth for Southeast Asia. First, I would like to thank all participants, partners, and jury members for contributing their time and insights to envision what sort of Southeast Asia we would like to see. Now, as an independent and nonprofit organization, the Tech for Good Institute believes in raising public understanding to inform policy around the intersection of technology, the economy, and society. Now, over the last few years, we have seen how technology can shape how we work and play. And as this technology develops at this incredible pace, its integration into our daily lives will become even more seamless. And so it's really important for us to examine how technology may meaningfully contribute to our lives and to society, whilst really with open eyes mitigating any downstream risks. Now, the Tech for Good Institute is squarely focused on Southeast Asia. We represent a young and ambitious population. Some of us are younger than others, twice the size of the United States. And we are highly diverse as a region. We believe that technology can drive sustainable development for the region, but only if governments, industry, and civil society work together. Now, for our part, we want to serve as a platform for conversations and collaborations focused on Southeast Asia, but connected to the rest of the world. And such a conversation about the future must include voices of those who will inherit it. And so that's the theme of the 2022 Tech for Good Institute Essay Competition, Shaping the Future of Southeast Asia's Digital Economy. We wanted to showcase how our future leaders, many amongst you are here today, are thinking about the impact of technology in our lives and communities. Now, this is the first time we've run this competition, so we were really not sure how many people would be interested. And as you saw in the video, we were really delighted to have received over 140 entries from across 9 Southeast Asian countries. And for those of you who are here today, thank you so much. You wrote some of the most insightful essays I have read in a very long time, and we are really proud to have you here with us today. So without any further ado, let me hand the virtual mic back to Hui-san to introduce our special guest, Dr. Roberto Matin Galang, Dean of the Art-teo-neo de Manila University. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ming Tan, for your candid sharing about Tech for Good's Institute mission and the essay competition. Next, we would like to invite our keynote speaker for today. He is currently the Dean of the John Go-kong-wei School of Management at the Art-teo-neo de Manila University. Previously, he was with the World Bank Group, where he served as a senior private sector specialist. He led studies, negotiated and implemented key economic development projects in countries such as the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. He completed his PhD in management from the IESE Business School in Barcelona, Spain, and his master's in development economics from Oxford University. Please welcome Dr. Roberto Matin Galang for his keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Hui-san. And of course, I'd like to thank Tech for Good and Ming for inviting us here to present. I believe that as a university, these kinds of partnerships are really something that we look forward to, especially partnerships where we can engage with our constituents from all across ASEAN. And so I hope I can share my screen and just go through some of our thoughts on how a university can contribute to this tech ecosystem and the kind of new tech-enabled reality we find ourselves in. Let me just share my screen very quickly. I hope that you can see it. Let me just, there. So I just wanted to give a quick talk on how we can better understand the post-pandemic digital realities that we face ourselves in, which is because basically the context of the situation that this Tech for Good essay is looking into, right? In essence, we all remember that a couple of years ago, many countries all over our region and of course all over the globe dealt with COVID-19, which imposed all sorts of containment measures, which affected mobility. This meant that many of our economies really went into a tailspin. And even today, some smaller economies remain below pre-pandemic levels, right? And plus, after we had thought that our lives would normalize, war and uncertainty, oil price increases, food shortages suddenly appeared everywhere. And the new normal that we had come to expect became a normal faced with shortages, devaluations of currencies, potential defaults, economic crisis, and of course, climate change, which we thought had gone into the back burner, remains an issue. You have floodings in New Zealand, large cold waves in Europe, and heat waves in other areas. So in essence, while we are waking up from the contraction and the rebound of 2022, in essence, the world that we now see in 2023 is actually much riskier than the world we had, grown up with just 3 years before that. So the good news is that in this world of more shocks, digitalization has seemed to be the answer, right? And of course, as a university, we remember that most of our classes had gone online. As consumers, we suddenly found ourselves moving from doing purchases from supermarkets or buying goods from a retail shop to now ordering everything online. We do school from home, work from home, even these international meetings from home, right? Because in essence, digitalization allows for greater efficiency. It allows for resiliency. It allows business continuity, even in the face of, natural and man-made disasters. And of course, it can also bring in inclusiveness when small and medium enterprises, consumers that had been locked out of being able to buy and sell, now through their phone, through the internet, can get the goods that they want from all over the world, right? And in fact, this is the main, silver lining of the pandemic, which is all of us, whether you're an SME, whether you are an elderly consumer, whether you're a young consumer, we're all brought forcefully into the digital age. So many of us now have more apps than we had before. We now have digital wallets. We now have digital bank accounts. And of course, we use companies like Grab to get us from one place to another, to buy goods, and to get food whenever we are hungry, right? So in essence, more and more companies are using digital platforms. And in essence, thankfully, right, payments, apps, platforms are now ubiquitous. And it's something that has really been able to change our lives. And so, in essence, we are really seeing this wonderful trend of digitalization that is spurring many new channels for consumers, no, especially for SMEs. Social media has become a place not just for us to, explain to people where we went on or what we ate, but it also has become a place for buying and selling goods, right? Platforms are now able to match buyers and sellers. And of course, more and more novel applications are born every day, right? It was unimaginable pre-pandemic that you could now get your doctor online, but now it's become de rigueur for us to have a medical consultation whenever we want, right? And so more and more investments are flooding into this space. And it's actually a great time to be a tech entrepreneur in Southeast Asia because more and more VCs, more and more governments are really funneling funds into these startups, right? But I guess the big question that we face as a society is, can we make sure that this innovation is really a force for good rather than a force for exclusion? It's unfortunate that there are many people that have no access to the digital economy, and we're not just talking about the people who are below the poverty line, but there are many people who live in isolated communities. There are many people who don't have the skills. Many people who are born of an earlier generation who are not as tech savvy, right? In essence, more and more of the services that we take for granted are actually not something that they're able to get. So I think this is something that maybe I want to stress in this discussion, is that we need to make sure that while all of these digital innovations are good, we hope that they are good for all, right? That this doesn't exacerbate the digital divide and the economic divides that we find ourselves in. And as a university, I think we also have been opened up to the challenge that faces us ahead, because we want to be at the forefront of promoting innovations. And in fact, we have been putting together undergraduate degree programs to promote innovation, but we realize that it's much easier to do this outside our degree process, right? So we now have to have boot camps, demo days, hackathons on campus so that our students become more aware of how to really promote greater innovation. And I guess the other thing that we need to make sure of is that we partner with entities all over the country, of course, all over the region, whether they're government, like the Department of Science and Technology, or whether they are in the private sector, and companies and foundations such as Tech for Good. And the idea is that we can also leverage our communities so that many of these ideas can be beta tested on campus as well as across our student body, so that we can really make sure that we are able to promote the inclusive innovations of tomorrow. And so in essence, as a university, we've had to reassess who we are, right? How much of our resources can be leveraged for innovation, for entrepreneurship, whether it's our labs, our faculty, our alumni, our library, or even our brand, right? And this has become our challenge that we face with us today. And so in essence, I just wanted to close with this thought, right? That the digital world is here. It is something that we as consumers and users in ASEAN are very excited to be a part of. But at the same time, we just need to make sure that while we are all benefiting from all this innovation, that we need to make sure that this innovation is really done in an inclusive manner so that it really lifts all the boats rather than just those that will have smartphones. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone, especially Tech for Good, for inviting us to present this afternoon. And of course, we wish all the essay participants well in this contest. So on that note, thank you very much and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roberto, for your insightful speech. The fast-growing digital economy in Southeast Asia definitely poses numerous urgent questions to all of us. To further explore these questions, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Matin, Tech for Good Institute's Strategy Director, to moderate a panel discussion on Southeast Asia's digital transformation and youth empowerment in the digital world. Can all the panelists please turn on your cameras and unmute yourselves as we start the panel discussion? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is really great to have all of you with us today to celebrate the diverse ideas from youth leaders on the challenges as well as opportunities posed by Southeast Asia's digital economy. My name, as my colleague has pointed out, is Matin. I serve as Strategy Director at the Tech for Good Institute. As the organizer of this essay competition, we felt quite strongly about the importance of including and embracing youth opinions about the potential of technology and what impact it can have on Southeast Asia's socio-economic and political landscape. We believe very strongly that technology, if utilized wisely, can provide intersectional solutions that can and should be in the service of the communities that use them. So without making you guys wait any longer, we will start an exciting panel today, which aims to tackle some of these difficult questions about the role of technology, particularly in areas such as political activism, education, and elderly care, and how we as society can encourage youth participation in the region's digital economy. Now, for those of you who like to pose questions to my fellow panelists today, please do send them via the Zoom chat box. We'll try to dedicate some time at the end for some Q&A session, for some light, candid sharing of these answers. Hopefully, we can answer all of your questions. Okay, introducing the speakers today. So for today's panel, I'm very honored to moderate a very distinguished panel of speakers who I respect quite a fair bit on. They are my peers whom I've met under the ASEAN Youth Fellowship Program a couple of months back, who will be able to give us some insight into how we might address these questions. So across the region, we have some representatives here. So the first is Tarma. Hello, Tarma. Nice to see you again. So Tarma serves as advocacy director and a co-founder at Undi 18, a youth movement that successfully advocated for the lowering of the voting age in Malaysia from 21 to 18 years old. Important work there. So later you can ask him more stuff about it. Next, we have Ling. She's the executive director of global programs at 500 Global, a venture capital fund where she oversees the strategic development as well as implementation of startup programs globally. Hi, Ling.
Hello.
Welcome to the panel. So Ling is she's the network to all the young and founders in the region who are doing great work on Southeast Asia. The last but not least, I have my friend Gab. He's the CEO and co-founder of Young Happy Co, a social enterprise that creates a personal assistant app for seniors to remain active and self-reliant. You should check them out. I think they are quite active on Instagram too. You get to see the host of programs that Gab and his team at Young Happy does to bring the seniors on board in this digital age with an aim to promote active aging in Thailand. Now, let us begin. So my opening question is, first, I think we've seen firsthand over the last decade, and I think that's also been mentioned by Prof. Robbie, and perhaps more so in the last 2 years during the pandemic, how digitalization has become a powerful force behind economic growth and has also challenged and even replaced conventions in sectors like healthcare, education, even in the space of youth advocacy. So such changes are particularly noticeable in the region, which has a tech-savvy young demographic. Many of you own a smartphone and very digitally savvy. So thus the region's digital economy has also quite experienced a booming growth during the past years, to which youth participation has contributed significantly. So to kickstart today's discussion, I thought it's worth asking everyone in this panel a super broad question, but an important one. So from your respective perspectives, what are some of the unique opportunities and challenges that the region faces in leveraging technology for economic growth and social engagement? Perhaps we can start with Tarma first, and then we go on to Ling, and we can wrap it up with Gab.
Right, firstly, thank you very much for having me. I hope you guys can hear me clearly. So I think for me, ASEAN and Southeast Asia is such an exciting region because first and foremost, we have the numbers, right? This is something that's so important whenever you talk about tech, because inevitably what attracts VCs, what attracts startups, what attracts ideas is that if you're able to scale solutions, if you can't scale it, it's very difficult for you to be able to invest funds inside. So I think that's something that we really have. We have about almost 700 million people in this region, almost 10% of the global population just in this small area of Southeast Asia, right? So I think that's something that's very powerful. And many of these people, even in Malaysia, our internet penetration is high. Our access and our tech literacy is relatively high compared to many parts of the world, right? So I think these are definite huge benefits. Of course, this is just talking about it from a very high, very, very big perspective, right? But I do think that there are significant challenges that we do have to think about when we look at regional adoption of tech and finding solutions. So one of the big challenges, of course, that there are huge differences even between us in terms of our language, our culture, in terms of local context, but also in terms of regulatory framework. If you look at finance, you look at any sort of solutions that you want to be able to bring from country to country, right? These are the huge, massive differences. Whereas other regions, because of certain, certain historical connections, therefore there is some level of similarity in terms of language, in terms of background, that makes things a little bit easier. So really, there is quite a bit of disconnect between countries in our region. Of course, that's a project that we have to work on via ASEAN, via different community building. So the potential is there, but the challenges are definitely something that we have to overcome properly over time. Yep. Just an overview. Yep.
Thank you. Ling, over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we always hear about people saying Southeast Asia is our market, and how big a market it is. So maybe I'll just dive a little bit into what are opportunities we see in Southeast Asia as a whole, coming from like a VC fund. The first one really is rural digitalization. So how can we help everyone get onto the digital economy, especially when we talk about the sari stalls, SMEs in the different markets itself. The second trend or the second opportunity is all commerce. So not just e-commerce, but all commerce. So especially during COVID and post-COVID, people now expect to be able to buy anything, get any service online when they want it, where they want it. So what does that mean? It goes beyond just the e-commerce marketplace. It means that we also need to fix, the supply chain, trust ecosystem, payments ecosystems, logistics. So all those are also opportunities for us. I think the third one that's really interesting is accessibility. Tamara touched upon that earlier on, which is unequal access, right, to all these opportunities out there, all these services out there. So when we talk about accessibility, how do we ensure that everyone, whether you're in an urban or rural area, actually get access to healthcare, to fintech? So we really look at what's healthcare for all, what's fintech for all, what does education for all look like? And I think another really unique one for Southeast Asia as a whole is agriculture. And this is something that a lot of other startups in other countries don't necessarily touch on because they're not so aware about it. But we have, especially the agriculture sector in Indonesia, Philippines is huge and still relatively untapped. But we talk about challenges. I think two things again. Tamara also touched on the first one, which is adoption. I was just in Philippines lately, and before COVID, GCash, which is the largest mobile wallet, at such a low penetration rate. Funny story was that even one of our ASEAN Youth Fellows did not download GCash, did not have a mobile wallet before the pandemic. But due to the pandemic, they suddenly secured 70 million subscribers, right, on GCash itself. And so it really took a pandemic to shift that habit. So adoption is one key one. I think the second thing, honestly, is tech talent, or talent as a whole. What the pandemic also exposed us to is that talent is mobile, it's global. You, as Singaporean startup, doesn't just need to hire from Singapore. Remote work enables you to hire from the best talent at a much cheaper price point. So for us to really be competitive, I think we definitely need to up talent in.
Oh, great. Thanks, Ling and Tarma. I thought these are super important factors for us to think about as we think about unlocking the potential of digital, right? I think, Ling, just like you mentioned about agriculture, there's so much opportunity with regards to the use of technology or innovation in technology to kind of drive and change the way we do agriculture here. Not many people know about it, but really we are one of the biggest source as a region with regards to many of the food products that is being exported across the globe. So I thought that is something which is quite interesting. And to Tarma's point with regards to, Southeast Asia seems like one big market, but we are truly a lot more diverse than that. And all of us have our own little kind of way of doing things. And I think Tarma, for you, it must have been quite interesting to hear directly from the European Union, right? You were there recently to see how things are like. And here in Southeast Asia, it's almost like all of us are not the same. It's same, but different, right? Actually more different than same. The only same is that we are all in this little geographical zone that we find ourselves in the neighborhood. So on the point to take it further, Gab, I think for you, what unique challenges and opportunities do you see given your work in advancing the inclusivity for the seniors?
Okay. Thank you so much, Martin, for the opportunity. I'm very happy to be here. And it's a bit hard for me because I am the last one, right, to answer from the great Chamal and Ling, right? They put the great answer already, so it's tough for me. So, but you can see that they're laughing right now. Okay. For myself, maybe I would like to share one story about the elderly people, the scene of elderly people. I know that everyone talking about the aging society. Asia going to be the biggest of aging in the whole world, right? And do you know in Southeast Asia, especially in Southeast Asia right now, we have around more than 61 million senior who are above 60 years old. So it's equal the whole country of Thailand be senior, right? If you can see this one. But I think it's like a trend and opportunity. You can take a look. Everyone in this room right now, you can take a look from your mom or your dad. I'm sure that most of them adopt the application or new application during the COVID-19, right? Many of them, they know Zoom, right? We have to like big thank you for the pandemic in terms of this thing that forced elderly people to adopt the technology that can help them to leverage their life. But in other hand, in Thailand, we're facing about the challenge from the technology too, because the government try to push all the access to the technology because it's easy as that anyone can get into. But the same as Ling just mentioned, it's not only the technology, but the accessibility. The people that get into the technology is costly, right? You have to pay the Wi-Fi. You need to have your smartphone. So the government should think about another group that they cannot access it on it. You need to think more inclusive. This is the thing that we think the technology is a good opportunity and the talent and a threat too in the same time. Moreover, many people, especially elderly people, they adopt the technology right now, and it's the good. It turned to be the opportunity for the scammer that they've looking into the elderly people to be the target group, right? Because it's like a kid, they're holding a knife. They can use to be a cooking for good food, or they can kill themselves. It's the same that elderly people, they hold the smartphone, right? And right now, they have a lot of things. They have a mobile app, mobile banking app on the smartphone, so they can easier to scam. This is the thing that we need to think about too. Yeah, Martin, thank you.
Oh, great. 61 million of elderly in Southeast Asia. That's the size of Thailand as a whole. I think sometimes you forget when you talk about all the cutting edge of technology, the more innovative parts of the world, of the sector, we forget really who the end users could potentially be. And I think the number that you just shared, Gab, is truly a testament to the kind of investments we need to do, and more deliberate intentions that we need to embark on to ensure that, we bring them into the fold as we think about advancing this work. Now, switching gears a bit, given that, most of you guys and everyone as well as listening are all youths, so there is a bit of a interest from the group here to also learn a bit more about youth empowerment, right? So with that exponential growth that all of you have mentioned about, I think Southeast Asia's digital economy is definitely on the territory of waiting to be discovered, with both exciting prospects as well as unknown challenges. So I think the question to all of you, maybe we can start with Gab first, to Ling, and then to Tharma, is what do you think is the role of young people in this discovery journey, right? How can we as a society empower them to utilize technology to create real change? I think some of you are already doing things on your own, and it'll be quite interesting to share how you intend to do that. Gab, you want to go first?
Thank you for me. I think I lost the question a little bit. Okay. The idea is I just mentioned about the technology, that the cutting edge technology. It's very awesome, but in other hand, we need to think about the user, right? That Matin just mentioned about it. For myself, I look back last 5 years. Everyone think about last 5 years. I do believe at that time my dad didn't have a Facebook account. But for this time, most of your family, they have their Facebook account, right? But normally you don't want to be a friend together, because most of the elderly people of your mom and your dad want to like look at you, where did you go, right? And try to comment on you. So you don't want to be a friend with them. But the key that I mentioned about this thing is we do believe that if we believe in technology that can help our life better. Think about the elderly people or handicapped people. If they can get into this thing too, this is gonna change their life too. Imagine when I want to get some food, I can order a Grab right now, right? Grab to get the food. If I want to go somewhere else, I can get a Grab to go somewhere else too. And if elderly people, they can use the technology, it's gonna be cool too. But we need to be the connector between the technology and the one who never used it before. And to be the gap, you need to understand, not only try to force them to use this, but you need to like take on their side. How do they feel? What do they doing? Or what they think? How do they think? Like the smartphone, you can take a look at the elderly people. Most of them, they didn't touch the smartphone, but they push the smartphone. They do like this, right? They didn't touch. It's different, right? Because when you were young, if you remember your phone at home, right? You need to press the button, right? The elderly people, they do the same. So you need to understand them to be the bridging the gap, like, yep.
Well, such a good point about being a connector and bridge, and I think more importantly is to have the empathy to know where their starting point is. I thought the example that you gave about the way they press the buttons is really, you know, those are old habits because of the old times, and I think this is where all of us can play a role to kind of like bring them on this journey as well in regards to digital adoption. Ling, over to you.
I thought what Gab mentioned was really interesting, which is user centricity, right? And my point around how we can bring more people into the fray, and especially as the youth as well, is to, I know it's going to sound really simple, but it's really to observe the problems around you, get really curious about why things are the way they are and why things have been working this way, not working this way, and then go push boundaries. So in startup, we always say, don't start with technology, but really start with the underlying problem itself. And each of us are in, you know, niches, markets, come from background experiences that are so different. Don't try and solve like the big trendy stuff, but really look around you and figure out what's unique to you and where you have the key advantage that you can really solve. And I just want to go to the question in the chat. I think Karma is best place to answer this question, Tulsi. But I did want to point out as well that if you're in Singapore, for example, right, the National Youth Council have run events like the Youth Dialogue. There are a lot of young leadership programs which it's open up to all the youth in Singapore to come and really play a hand in giving opinions and sitting down and helping with policy making. I think I've really seen firsthand how the council, National Youth Council in Singapore, have been sourcing for ideas from the youth here. And they also hold something called the Youth Action Challenge every year, where you can come and get mentorship and then funding to actually launch a startup, or not even a startup, a project, right, that solves like a problem, whether it is in social inclusiveness or it's in environmental sustainability, so on and so forth, that you're passionate about. Again, don't just also look at the policy making. I think that's one aspect. On the private sector as well, there are also a lot of grants available, youth programs out there. I run something called Young Founders Summit. So we do provide, you know, mentorship and guidance and network to young people here who are really interested to make a difference.
Great. Something that you guys might not know, Ling also serves as a council member in the National Youth Council. So she too is doing some work with regards to bringing youths involved and the voices into policy making or some of the engagements that is being done at the Singapore level. But there are also two fronts, right, to that question, right? Is that one, there are ready platforms for you to go about doing it. And in certain countries where the platforms may not be so readily available, then you can start one too. So nothing stops it. And really no one else better to talk about this than Tarma himself. Tarma, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer that when there is a gap, right? When there is, when there is a missing link, often people who are aware about it, like people in this room, people who are, who are aware, who are thinking about a problem. Sometimes you don't have to think. You don't have to wait for a solution to come. Sometimes you can be the bridge that solves the problem, right? I think that's something that that is very important. That we have to have that self-belief that let's try to solve these problems ourselves. Because often, I mean, this is a challenge with Southeast Asia is that we don't always have governments that are supportive. We don't always have policymakers who understand, right? So when you don't have that situation, how can you as civil society, as entrepreneurs, as young people who want change, step in and try to fix these sort of problems? But I do want to sort of talk a little bit about how we can create ecosystems that enable change to happen, especially leveraging technology. I do want to talk a little bit about the policy lens, because I think this is something that's very important, right? One of the things that I always believe in is that you must have a government that looks at technology first, right? And this is not, I mean, this is a slogan, right? But it is something that's actually very, very difficult to implement in reality, right? Because it requires retraining of your civil servants. It requires a restructuring and a transformation about how government does business on a day-to-day basis. It requires us to look at a data-centric approach, right? And it's only by doing all these things, and that's when you really have ecosystems that enable civil society and also entrepreneurs to add value from there, right? And I think also just to share, one of the key challenges in Southeast Asia is that a lot of our growth is driven by government or government-linked corporations, right? So, I mean, we have a lot of different terms we use for these particular entities in different countries, but fundamentally that is our developmental model, right? We take on debt and we push development from that perspective. However, there is a lot of fear of transparency. There's a lot of fear that, hey, if I do this, it becomes slower, right? If I do all these mechanisms, it makes it harder and less, I can do my work in it takes more time because I have to calculate, I have to report, I have to track data, I have to do, monitoring and evaluation, all these kind of things. However, I think this is something that's so important, because if you don't have this, it makes it very difficult for tech entrepreneurs and also, young people to come in and say that, hey, I've been noticing this, and this is where you can improve things. This is where I can come into the system. So I do believe that starting with that perspective of tech first, data first, and sort of for pushing your governments and policymakers to look at that as a primary means of running government is something that will essentially make any sort of technological development, much more efficient, and that you can multiply your impact and solve problems much quicker in the long term. So I think that's a perspective that I strongly believe in. And of course, you got to center young people, right? We are a very young population in Southeast Asia. So if we don't center young people and the concerns that we have, and also the kind of things that we're familiar with, I think we're missing out in so much potential for growth. So I think those are the two key perspectives that I would always advocate for when it comes to pushing for solutions, whether it's from government or whether it's from our own initiatives in solving things.
Oh, thank you, Dharma. Every time when you speak, I always find that you'll be a future politician someday. But thank you so much. Very inspiring. I've just been prompted that this is our last question that I can pose to all of you before we move on to the rest of the proceedings of the event. So I have one last question to everyone. And this is really taken from one of the attendees. So the question here is really around his or her views, right? So number one, it's as a young person who wants to break into technology scene and trying to effect change, sometimes I do find my opinions dismissed as unimportant or naive. Do you have any advice on how to navigate situations like these so that I can have a seat at the table? I think all of us experience some sort of this in our day-to-day work, and I would love to hear the different perspectives. Maybe we start off with Ling first.
As corny as it is, I'm just going to take the advice that we usually go with startup founders as well, which is speak to 100 people, expect to get rejected 99 times. But you'll find one person who listens and believes in you. So really, what's so understated these days, honestly, right, is the importance of really just hard work and pushing boundaries. And just really being able to go out there and hear people say no, but have your voice be heard time and time again. And you eventually meet someone who pays attention and listens to you. But I think the second thing as well is really do that with humility, right? Sometimes we think that, oh, we live in this digital first world. And honestly, the next generation calls me a boomer as well. Right? We call ourselves youth, but the next generation is calling me a boomer too. And we always think that we are so much more advanced and tech savvy than the previous generation, but there's a lot of experience and knowledge that they've gone through as well that we could also learn from. So going back, and I'm going to tie it back to the words that Karma and Gab also used earlier on, which is bridge, right? How do we think of ourselves as humble learners here to figure out and help the previous generation rethink how we do things better, but be humble enough to accept, all their experiences and knowledge and hear them out as well.
But Gab, next, before we turn it to Tarma.
Thank you for let me before Tamal. Hey Tamal, I will select you for sure if I have a China, if I be in Malaysia. Just kidding. I love what you're saying. Yep, I do agree with Ling just said that, right? The I don't know, it's gone from my mind. Sorry, I'm back again. Ling, you just said that the breathing, right? The breathing, and yeah, we cannot only not only think about it. We are we are better than other people, because I remember when I play a game, Roblox. Anyone know Roblox, right? Roblox. I cannot win 8 years old kid, right? And it's changed already. That game is like 3D things, but when we were young, Contra, right? You know the formula to get like ultimate life, right? You remember how to play that one, right? It's totally different because the technology is evolved all the time. So we cannot think that we are the best. Yeah, and to believe someone who older than us, they know, they have experience, and yeah, right now we are in the whole world that everyone know the same level as the knowledge. I think Google make everyone equal in terms of get into that asset, right? But more than that, we need to think about everyone. We need to combine every single piece of the talent to change the new thing that inclusive everyone. This is the thing that I think. Yep.
Thank you, Gab. Okay, Tarma, come, take it home.
So firstly, I think I love the perspectives from Ling and yeah, so I think I totally agree with what they say. Just as an addition in terms of how do you make sure that you have a seat at the table, your voice is heard. My suggestion is that just be brave, right? Just be courageous and just keep pushing forward. I think often in this world, you never have a situation. I think very few people are lucky enough when they speak, people listen. But if you keep pushing, if you keep speaking, you keep working hard, you keep knocking doors, eventually, no one can ignore you. Eventually, you become someone that people cannot help but to listen to, and you become someone that is respected. So I think often in life, right? I mean, unless you're someone who's already ultra privileged, right? And if you're lucky to be in that situation, okay, that's a different story altogether, right? But for most of us, you have to earn respect. You have to earn your seat at the table, and you can't expect it to be given to you, right? And I think also you have to, I think this is something that I had to learn from over the years, right? That older people believe that they earned that seat, and therefore they don't really want to let go. They don't really want to sort of like say, hey, I want to listen to someone else, because it makes them feel that I'm inadequate, right? So it's so important that when you try to lead by empathy, and when you listen, and when you try to figure out what are the real, cultural issues that the older generation are pushing back on you on, and you try to overcome it, try to work together with them. But most importantly is to just be brave and be relentless. And the other thing I also want to mention is that sometimes you don't necessarily have to get approval from older generation to have a platform, right? The great thing is that, in ASEAN, in most countries, young people itself, we are a force of our own. If you can get young people to believe in you, your own generation to build with you, then you don't necessarily need so-called a seat at the table that's provided by someone else. You build your own platforms, you create your own credibility, and you lead from there, from based on what you created on your own. So I think that's another perspective that I also want to challenge you, that do you really need to get another seat at the table, or you create a table of your own?
Well, thank you. Thanks so much. I completely agree with all the panelists here, because being a bridge, being leading by humility and having empathy in that, and also, not accepting the kind of cards that are being dealt for you, right? I think for many of us, the truth is a lot of hard work is needed, right? You need to earn that seat, and it might be difficult. But I think today, with democratization of technology and so many access points, nothing is impossible indeed. And I think this is something that we want to ensure that the youth in the region continues to believe that. And I think one parting comment for everyone, it's also the whole value of resilience. You, like what Ling said, you speak to 100 people, 99 of them will say no and will think that you're naive and you don't have a great point to say. But if you keep harping on that, someone one day will be able to listen to that, and you're able to take the agenda forward one step at a time. Thank you so much, Ling, Tarma, and Gab. That marks the end of today's panel discussion. Thanks for your insightful and candid sharing. We hope the audience had gained valuable takeaways from the discussion today. Thanks everyone. I'll hand over the time to Hui-san.
Thank you, Mr. Martin, and all panelists for the insightful discussion. Next is probably the most anticipated segment of today's ceremony, announcement of winners in national and open categories. Starting in no particular order, from Singapore, we have from the Singapore University of Technology and Design, in third place, Laronza Andrea Roquilio on Edge Computing. In second place, Renard Chia on Equity Development in 4 Industry Revolution. In first place, Tan Ka Ming on AI for Good. Congratulations to all Singapore winners. Please smile and wave to the camera. Moving on to Philippines, from the University of the Philippines. In third place, we have Mendoza John McNeil on a Green Digital Future. In second place, Gerard John C. Golemo on Southeast Asia Digital Economy Policies. And in first place, Maria Angelica Therese Laurel on Philippines' Next Digital Wave. Congratulations to all Philippine winners. Please smile to the camera. Next, from Malaysia University Malaya, we have in third place, Jessica Ong on Enhancing Cybersecurity in Southeast Asia. In second place, Siti Baradia binti Sharif on Impact of Southeast Asia Digital Economy. And in first place, Winnie Wong on Impact of Southeast Asia Digital Economy. Congratulations to all Malaysia winners. Say cheese! And next up, from Indonesia Institute Technology Bandung, we have in third place, Erka Wijaya on the Digital Economy of Indonesia. Second place, Sachi Hongo on Personalization and Trust in the Digital Economy. And first place, Nila Armilia Windasari on Tech for Improved Wellbeing. Congratulations to all Indonesia winners. Smile to the camera. And next, from Thailand Chiang Mai University, we have in third place, Kanatip Situset on Digitalization in Green Finance. Second place, Situfian on the Unrealized Potential of Digitalization. First place, Anyet San on Myanmar Digital Opportunities. Congratulations to all Thailand winners. Please smile and wave to the camera. And finally, from the open category, we have in third place, Renaud Oswa on Building Trust in the Digital Economy. In second place, Francis Junior Silvidat on Southeast Asia Digital Decade and its Potential. And in first place, Kalastas Chong on Sustainable Digitalization. Smile to the camera. Congratulations to all winners. Can we have all the winners smile and wave to the camera for a final round of photo taking? Can the speakers and panelists also turn on their cameras? Thank you, everyone. A round of applause to all the winners. To close the ceremony, let's invite Martin to come back to say a few words.
Hello. Okay, I'll make it short. I have 3 minutes before the end. So today, thank you so much to everyone for participating in today's small little ceremony. The winner announcement also wraps up today's ceremony. In short, I hope everyone had a meaningful and enjoyable experience participating in the competition. On behalf of the organizing team, I would like to thank all of you for your thoughtful and innovative essays. Without you, the competition would not be able to fulfill its intended purpose. So once again, thank you, and I'll see you next year for the next round of the essay competition. Stay in touch.
Thank you, Martin. So this marks the end of the event, and the event recording will also be shared on our website and LinkedIn, so please look out for it and feel free to share. Once again, we'd like to thank everyone, and we hope that you continue to support the Tech for Good Institute. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.